let's talk about the arm swing illusion. What does that mean?
This is Golf Smarter.
Wow, that's a great question. In its simplest form, I'll answer as simple as I can. In its simplest form, it means that the way most golfers, and by most I mean well over 99.9%, view the golf swing to some degree. Some do it a lot, some do it a little bit. But when they watch, especially if they watch tour pros on television, the sort of the default premise that is so obviously true to the person watching, even though in reality it's not true, it looks like what the arms do is independently make a across the chest and around the body motion, sort of like that. Now, it's not that the arms don't go a little bit that way. They do actually, in a proper takeaway, the arms make a slight motion this way, but I'm talking this much. It's a small amount. If you can actually measure it, and we teach 45. We want to have our left arm 45 degrees, like mine is right now, to my shoulder girdle. Here's my shoulder girdle here, right? So if you looked at a camera overhead looking down, you'd see a 45 degree angle, okay, right? And then we want, after we attain that 45 degree angle on the takeaway, we want to let our right elbow fold, and when the right elbow folds, both arms go up toward the sky a little bit like this. But if I turn this way, hopefully this will show up on the webcam, my arm is still in front of my chest. So as opposed to looking like this, where it's behind, you get stuck behind you. So the idea is, in order to have a good golf swing, you have to synchronize some form of arm motion, often called the arm swing, which I think is a bad choice of words. I would never want to call it an arm swing. But there's an independent arm motion on the backswing, which is on that 45 degree angle and away from your body, about 6 to 8 inches for most people, and then up, right? And then, of course, it reverses as your right arm starts to straighten on the downswing. Then it kind of reverses. But the point is, we don't want to have a arm dominant swing where there's hardly any engagement of the pivot, which would be this, right? Engaging the pivot. And which is how most, you look at a typical mid to high handicap, someone who's in around 15 handicap or higher. Very few of those guys or gals have enough pivot. They don't rotate enough. They don't turn their core. They don't turn their upper torso or shoulder girdle, especially. Some underturn their hips, and some will overturn their hips. But what I'm talking about is more the core and the upper chest and shoulder girdle. They don't turn it enough. And that's your main source of power in the golf swing. And it also has a huge influence on how the club moves through space, hopefully on plane, right? So that's sort of a short synopsis of what the arm swing illusion is. So when people watch a good player, they're seeing that side-to-side motion independently. And what's really happening with the illusion is the arms are moving side to side, but 90% of that side to side arm motion is not independent arm motion, meaning arm muscles moving the arms. It's the pivot moving the arms. Since your arms are connected to your shoulder girdle, when you pivot properly, that pivot motion, both in the backswing and the forward swing, creates arm motion in the horizontal dimension, which is the sort of away from the target and then toward the target dimension, right, on the forward swing. But you got to distinguish between independent arm motion, which is arm muscles moving the arms independently of your pivot, versus dependent arm motion, which is the pivot motion moving the arms.
Click on the link below to subscribe to our free weekly interviews on the Golf Smarter podcast at golfsmarter.com.